Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Thank you, Mario, but our Nintendo Direct is in another castle. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including some of the announcements coming out of Gamescom. And then on Thursday, for real, we are going to be curating our own Zelda trilogies. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Every week that we've tried to do this Zelda trilogy show, which I'm really excited about, we have managed to conjure some sort of Nintendo announcement or presentation just before we record, and I'm curious what will happen this week.
Right, so it's either a third time's the charm sort of thing, or you and I have unlocked some like ancient black magic that all we have to do is say that we're going to curate our own Zelda trilogies, and then that just from the ether appears a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, we'll just see how it goes.
Mark, how you feeling now that we are in September? We are in summer's over, even though we're going to be going through another vicious heat wave in just a couple days. You feeling good? Feeling good? Leaving that summer behind?
I'm. Well, see, it felt like no summer at all. Time is like such a weird thing right now, where yes, like the days...
I appreciate you refraining from saying flat circle. I appreciate that.
Well, like the days are like long sometimes, but then they accumulate very quickly, and you're like, I have not really been outside for the entirety of summer, like to a like kind of weird. I mean, I guess I don't even have to try to describe the weirdness of life right now, but
we're all experiencing it.
So we can all share in the fact that this was a super weird summer that I am very ready to like have behind me, but at the same time it felt like it never happened.
Yeah, Mark, right now you're describing my experience with Sonic Forces, and other people could have that same experience with my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. All you got to do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us a mailing address where I can send my copy of this game. You play it for as long as you want, or don't play it for as long as you want, and then send it back to me. I pay for postage both ways. It is a perfect borrowing program. It is active again, although now I'm just sending it sort of loose in the mail, so hopefully that's still working. Again, it could be destroyed by some envelope folding machine, and we would never know.
I don't know if this is still true, but maybe like 15 or 20 years ago, as long as you had the proper amount of postage, you could send like anything through the mail, like pretty much like any shape. Like you could send like a bowling pin as long as it had like the proper amount of postage affixed to it. And I wonder if you could do that with the Sonic Forces cart, where you could just like put a stamp on the cart and like in really tiny letters write the address,
addressing it really small,
and just like see if it could get there.
I mean, I love that. I think that'll be the next person who is going to get it is going to get just a stamp with Sonic Forces stuck to it.
Do you think that it would be fun if we compiled a list of the people? Like, I know you're compiling a list of the people who are currently on the Sonic Forces borrowing list, but but if we figure out like what states each of them are in, and then see which states we're missing, and then like particularly try to solicit people to get on the list from those states, we're like, hey, Rhode Island, help us out here so we can like complete Sonic Forces like 50 states tour.
Okay, here's the thing. I do not want to get stuck in a Sufjan Stevens situation where we do not complete our 50-state project and then have to hear about it for the rest of our lives.
That's a great point.
You know that's an interview question that he gets every time someone interviews him, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got to be. Speaking of things that we will ask you about for the rest of your career, your Mario memories. We are collecting Mario memories for our look. October is Mario's 35th anniversary, so we are going to be celebrating it all month long with a series of shows all about Mario. It's going to be super fun. Again, we're in September, so that's just next month. Mark, can you believe that? It's coming up so fast.
Time doesn't make any sense.
That's right. But we need your Mario memories because Mark and I are just two people. I probably know Mark's Mario memories. He probably knows my Mario
We
memories.
We are so sick of hearing each other's Mario memories.
So we need you to write in with whatever moments you have from your experience with Mario that made you feel something, that made you excited, that made you scared, that made you happy, whatever. Please write into us and share those with us so we can share them on the show. It's just Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And thank you to Jimmy, to Jason, to Mark, to Corbin, and Adam for already submitting memories. It is starting to look like it's going to be a good show, but it can be a great show if we get more people writing in. And then, Mark, we had a tweet that you wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah. So I think in last week's show, I talked about finishing Paper Mario the Origami King, really liking it, and thinking that I wanted to play Paper Mario Sticker Star, which is available on the 3DS, because really, my options for Nintendo games right now are the 3DS or the Switch. And I would get Color Splash on the Wii U, except I don't have a Wii U. And so at Silvergrass Moon offered, they tweeted saying, at MKE Mitchell, I will play Sticker Star with you, name the time and place, just the time I guess. And at Silvergrass Moon, thank you so much for offering to play Sticker Star with me. I'm
it's more than I did. More than I offered.
I'm a little Paper Mario'd out right now, but tell you what, in 5 years, if neither you or I have played Paper Mario, let's meet back here at the same exact spot and let's play Sticker Star together. And 2,
are you sure you don't want to do it at the top of the Empire State Building? Like, isn't that?
I mean, why risk it in 5 years? And
yeah,
then
sure. There could be a King Kong up there.
And then 2, I'm very curious for this person, did the avatar come before your Twitter handle, or did your Twitter handle come first and like the avatar is based on it? Because it's a really like pleasant avatar, and I'm just wondering what the genesis of that is.
This is some real inside stuff for people not on Twitter. At Silvergrass's Moon, Silvergrass Moon's like profile icon is like a little white circle, and it does appear to be a field of silver grass below it.
It could also be Jack Skellington facing away from the camera, like looking into the sunset.
Right. I mean, you run that risk anytime you see a white circle, right? All right, Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. Okay, so I feel a little silly about this one in that when I first picked up a short hike, that I didn't finish playing the game. I played like what turned out to be almost like 90% of it, and then stopped and was like, I'll come back to this later. And then when I came back to it just this weekend, I put in another 15 minutes and was done. But a beautiful game, a wonderful experience. I really, really enjoyed gliding and climbing around this mountain, meeting all the characters along the way, and having like a nice little moment once you reach the top. It's got that very indie game melding of solid mechanics and just like a heartfelt specific story. So yeah, I totally recommend a short hike. It is no longer on sale, I guess, as of right now. But it's $9 full price. So like totally worth the price of admission.
Yeah, I picked up a short hike as well, and I played maybe like how long was your total experience, would you say, with the short hike?
2.5 maybe.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think I played for like half an hour. I don't know. I was in a really like weird headspace this weekend, and so I had such a hard time. Like, I played short hike for a little bit. I played Spirit Fair for a little bit. I played more of Samurai Jack Battle Through Time for a little bit. I had such a hard time like getting into any of them. Like, I think it was just hard for me to want to like do the mental work of like playing a new game, and like even though the mechanics of like a short hike in Spiritfarer are like, fairly like straightforward and the worlds are pleasant to be in and everything, it was just like a bridge I couldn't cross this weekend. So I ended up just going back to Donkey Kong Country and basically playing through that. Like that's all I could handle was just
Wonderful.
something that I like already knew.
And something that we just talked about like a month ago. No fresh observations about Spiritfarer or Samurai Jack?
I mean, Spiritfarer is like aesthetically like so beautiful. It's something that should totally be, that I am anticipating will be completely up my alley when I'm in more like the mood to get into it. The beginning, like you're just trying to get situated in the world and like figure out the mechanics, and you get this ship and you like, it's like building stuff. And so I think like the resource part of it, I just like I wasn't in the mood to dig into, but like I cannot get over aesthetically like how beautiful and how like warm and like rewarding the world feels to be in. And then Samurai Jack Battle Through Time, I have put in probably like an hour and a half, maybe close to 2 hours into it, and it seems it's like totally fine. It's completely right. Like,
does it feel a little like because I think I've probably also played for about an hour and a half. Feel pretty like samey. Like every new room you go into is basically the same level of challenge. You're surrounded by guys
kind of
that
the same
fight you.
sort of enemies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So especially through like the first areas you travel through, like there's like the castle that you're in for a good chunk of the first level, and like aesthetically I didn't particularly care for it. This next section that I'm in now, like the second section, it's like outdoors and like really green, and like has like these beautiful like pink flowers, and like I like that a lot more. I think the problem, yeah, exactly like you said, the problem for me is that it is a budget game, and that's not like a bad thing necessarily, but it's very repetitive. It's like run through corridors. It's very like clear where you're going. Run through corridors, defeat like the same type of enemies, rinse and repeat. And if for people who like the Samurai Jack world, or even just like are looking for a straightforward like action game, like it's not bad. It seems to have depth there if you want the depth, in the sense where like the skill tree is pretty big.
So many skill trees. Yeah.
There's like a lot different weapons, and there are like little like missions that you get within the game where it's like do 10 of these actions, like that sort of thing. So it's not a bad game. It's just like it doesn't like grab me. It doesn't do anything like particularly interesting.
Yeah. I feel that too. I mean, I feel just like the overall sort of malaise, having a hard time like locking into something new. So one of these symptoms of that is I spent a fair amount of time this weekend playing Animal Crossing. Still playing Animal Crossing. And one of the things I realized, obviously we are recording this from the final day of August, which means that today is the last day to catch some August bugs. A lot of the cicadas are going away after after tonight. Now, by the time we're listening to this, by yesterday. So Sarah and I made a list of all of the bugs that were leaving in August that we did not already have. It was a total of 8 bugs. 8 of them, kind of a lot. And we made the list, I think, on Saturday, maybe Friday or Saturday, one of the two. So we're like, we don't have a lot of time to get what's left of these bugs. And all of them are either available only between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. or 11 p.m. and 8 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So like they're either like evening and late night, or just late night bugs. So made this checklist, and it's like, okay, when that's like, we both have this goal of like collect these bugs, and 7 of 8 of these bugs only spawn on palm trees. Mark, there are currently 40 palm trees on my island, just lining the beach, in a horseshoe shape all the way around the island. And we have collected now 7 of the 8 of these bugs. I know, I know. And there are two of them that are listed as like ultra rare, like the super hard to
Mm-hmm.
find. The golden stag and the giraffe stag. Um, I found the golden stag this morning when I
Oh,
was
nice.
playing before 8 o'clock in the morning because I woke up and was like, well, you can put like an hour in right now if you want. So I was like running around, running around, running around. Uh, Caught one golden stag and was like, yes, took a screen grab, and then was like, all right, I'm gonna like keep going around the island here. And this probably had been running mindlessly looking for these bugs for 3 or 4 hours at this point. Caught this golden stag, ran, maybe 30 seconds later encountered a second golden stag.
Oh my gosh.
Why would it do this? Why would that be like that? So anyway, Sarah's in the other room right now. I hope trying to get that giraffe stag, and she is under strict orders that if she does catch it, she should barge in and interrupt the recording.
Yes, please.
To
Yeah.
let me know.
we'll just cut the whole thing short.
We just go out there and celebrate. So it's I really like it when. I mean, I enjoy Animal Crossing just in general, but having a specific goal in it is always very fun. It also made me realize that we don't know what the next update.
Yeah, totally.
Is
What,
gonna
like kind of
bring.
like autumn festival or something we're gonna get.
Yeah, I mean they teased like Halloween stuff back with the like last summer update, but the updates have been pretty regular at the beginning of the month. So I wonder if we're gonna get something in September, and if we'll have any like advanced like screening of that or what, or if it's just gonna show up one day and there'll be more stuff in the game.
Well, maybe
Or
maybe it'll be this Wednesday when we're trying to record
There we
our
go.
Zelda trilogy episode.
I would say, for the purposes of our magic spell, that does not count. That is not enough. Something else that two more things I want to talk about. One, I watched High Score on Netflix. Mark,
Oh,
have you
how
checked
was
this thing
that?
out yet?
No, I haven't.
It's
seen
really
it.
good. This is a 6-episode like documentary series on Netflix that traces through some of some bigger ideas from the early days of video games. I think the latest they go is like 1993 or 94 or something, but kind of trace it back to like Atari and the Nintendo, and Sega at one point, and fighting games, and Doom is in there, and like one more thing. Those are the main topics.
Is it set chronologically, or sorry, like is it
Ish.
or does it do it? I guess what I'm asking is like, does it say like, here's the history of video games through that time, or is it like, and here's an episode on fighting games, and here's an episode on console wars, and
Yeah, so it's more like the latter, but still sort of within a structure of like it starts with Atari because Atari is sort of like the first game console, and it carries like Atari's history past the point where Nintendo starts to take over. And then when they do the Nintendo episode, obviously they got to back up a little bit and then kind
Right.
of like go back forward. So like it does it's structured more based on topics, but also obeys the laws of chronology.
Yeah.
But it's good. There's a lot of stuff in there that I know already and that we've talked about on this show. But there's also a lot of stuff totally outside the realm of what you normally hear talking about video game stuff. It's really good about highlighting voices that are not white, that are not male, that are queer, and really showing that all of those people have been part of this community forever. And so even like video games reputation as like a straight boys club has never been founded. So it's I really liked it for those reasons, and just for like a slice of pure history. Like was just nice and fun and enjoyable. Sarah and I watched the whole thing in an evening. I believe it was last Tuesday night that we like put it on, watched like 2 episodes before dinner, watched another 3 after dinner, and then we're like, okay, let's go to bed. And then it was like, oh, there's 1 episode left and it's 38 minutes long, and we're like, well, we watched this whole thing in one night. But totally recommend if you have access to Netflix. The last thing I want to talk about, Mark, I've got a little bit of a hole in my heart, and what used to be filling that hole, was Dragon Quest XI-S Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch. I like the sounds and sights of a Dragon Quest game, and I haven't had that for many months now. So I picked up the demo for Dragon Quest Builders 2.
How are you loving it?
I am loving it. I just am loving it. Yeah, I've maybe put like an hour, maybe an hour and a half into the demo. I will play that demo until it tells me to stop playing it and buy the whole thing, and then I will buy the whole thing and I will play that. It's especially playing it at the same time as playing Animal Crossing, I am delighted by the way that it's like, oh yeah, you want to craft 3 of these things at once? Go ahead. Just tell it you want 3. And yeah, I mean, it's just, it's got all the characters look like that wonderful Akira Toriyama like greatness, but everyone's like really chibi and cute and running around. And so like I haven't really gotten to a place where I can do big creative ideas yet. It's all just been like sort of small building. But it's got all of the charm of Dragon Quest and sounds and looks just like what I want to hear and see. So they got me.
I played the demo for the first one, and friend of the show June lent me his copy, and so I played a little bit further, but didn't like completely get into the first game. Loved what I played of it though, and I've heard the second one is heads and shoulders above it. So
yeah, that's why I'm going right for the second one, is that it's just supposed to be a tighter experience and a little bit more, while still giving you that sort of crafting customization experience, also being like a proper RPG with like a nice story and all of that stuff too. So yeah, I mean, I'm in. I'm gonna talk about it on the show, probably from now until when I never finish it 2 years from now. All right, anyway, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
So the big new release for the week is coming on Friday, September 4th, and it's NBA 2K21 is released for the Switch. I would guess that 2K has seen like good return on their investment in bringing these games to Switch, because we've had one every year since the Switch was released. I have not played one though.
It's so weird that this game will be coming out like this year's NBA finals are still
totally.
I mean, it's obviously sports games in this year have a weird relationship with each other, and this game was always going to be targeted for early September. And yeah, I mean, it's just very, the whole thing is very weird to me.
But yeah, but I was gonna say that's pretty much it for this week.
Yeah. Man, it's so when Nintendo dumps, like, not dumps because it was good and we like the presentation and we like the Indie Direct, but like when they're like, here are 6 great games that are all coming out on like one day, Spiritfarer and A Short Hike, and that Raji, An Ancient Epic, and a handful of other ones, all came out at the same time, and now we get like a week like this, and we're like, yeah, I don't know, there's nothing that excites me here.
Well, I feel like this is just an opportunity to ask our listeners, like, hey, are there games that are coming out that we're overlooking? Because we're not like immediately familiar with the titles, and if there are, we would love to hear about it.
Yes, 100%. If you have a game that we should have been paying attention to here, you should email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com or tweet at us at NinCartSociety on Twitter. All right, Mark, let's close out the new releases. Now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Today, Mark, we are going to be discussing camping. Why have you got camping on the brain?
Well, I feel like, so, like summer's coming to a close, and I'm curious if you ever had, I'm curious if you ever had like that, like quintessential summer camp, like experience, like the sitcom movie, like going away for 6-8 weeks. like sleepaway camp?
So I never did it when I was a kid, like wasn't a Boy Scout or anything like that. But in high school, I was in a strolling strings group that had a summer camp every summer at the beginning of every summer where we learned all the pieces.
What is strolling strings?
Thank you. So I was a part of the Golden Strings, Tremper High School's Golden Strings in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I grew up there, and it is Strolling Strings is like an orchestral sort of performance where the violins, violas, and cellos are like wandering around a banquet hall,
Gotcha.
playing their instruments while bass and piano are sort of stationed at like a stage at the front. And so it was playing for a lot of God, I don't even like what like country clubs would hire us for like a Mother's Day brunch or like a Valentine champagne brunch. A lot of brunches. So yeah,
were you getting paid?
was I getting paid? No,
Yeah.
I mean we would go places and like so the organization would be paid, which would mean then that like we went to Germany and Austria one year, and like our individual financial commitment was like maybe $200 or something like that.
Wow,
So,
that's really cool.
yeah, it afforded us a lot of cool opportunities. But that's when I would do that. That was the only like summer camp experience I had. It was at the University of Wisconsin Oshkosh, and we were just staying in the dorms. So it wasn't even really like the quintessential camp experience like you were driving at. Did you ever have that?
So when I was younger, I went to like I was in Boy Scouts when I was fairly young, and we did a summer camp, but I only remember going, I guess, like 1 year, and it was only for like 5 days, and it was just for me, it was just a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like like everything about.
Did you have like
just-
friends that you knew at camp with you, or?
I had people that I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just a really like weird traumatizing experience.
I guess the closest thing that I have to like the actual summer camp experience was in 6th grade. The sort of like end of year class trip for the 6th graders was always, and this is we were 6th grade was elementary school for us still, so that was like the last year that you were in elementary school. That we would go to a summer camp called Phantom Ranch, which is a dope name for
That is an
a summer
amazing
camp.
name.
And it was just like a weekend there, and would do like canoeing and hiking and like craft things, and that was super fun. And I remember really enjoying that weekend. But the best part of it was the last night, so like Saturday night. They took all the kids to like there was a theater space on the campground that we all went, and they showed us the birds. And when we went in there, it was light out, and when we left, it was dark, and it was just like, okay, now go back to your cabins. And I remember being so freaked out by it.
That's so that's a really hilarious movie to show a bunch of kids. At a sleepaway camp.
It's so weird. Like, are they trying to freak us out? And if they're trying to freak us out, why isn't it like a camp scary movie?
I guess it's like the birds. There's one scene of like what I would say is like a jump scare, right? When she goes in the house and the person has their eyes pecked out.
Yes.
But for the most part, it's like not particularly violent. So I can see why you'd be like, I guess if we're trying to scare kids, that this is like an appropriate scary movie for them. But just a completely random poll.
Yeah, it was very bizarre, and I have maybe seen the birds like twice since then, and every time I'm like, this wasn't as good as when I saw it at Phantom Ranch. The movie will never be that good ever again. All right, that's going to do it for 433. We were accompanied today by... Oh, I didn't write it down, and I closed out the window. Mark, we'll never know. That's the part that we'll never know, is who we were accompanied by today. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
So we, of course, did not get a full-blown Nintendo Direct. Patrick,
right.
how are you
Yes.
feeling?
Yeah,
You were
no,
like,
I know.
oh yeah, I'm gonna bring it up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring it up. You had mentioned last week that you were still feeling pretty
Still
good
holding
that
out
on
hope, yeah.
Friday we were going to get some amount of Nintendo news.
Yep.
Friday came and went with nary a word.
And I appreciate you not reaching out to me to rub it in my face. Yeah, no, I took a pretty hard stance on it. Said get excited, expect the moon, expect everything, your wildest dreams, and obviously it didn't happen. So I won't throw my head in and say that I too am a broken man. I still think that we will get something in September. That we will get something that gives us a better idea. Although I am starting to think that that we're not going to get these Mario re-releases in October. We will still be celebrating Mario's 35th anniversary in October, come hell or high water. But I don't. We're too close now. We're too close for them to announce a big collection of games like that, and for it to come out like that. So I mean, I may be joining the doom and gloom chorus like everybody else.
I think you're right that it's probably too late for it to be released in October. And with like Pikmin 3 coming out at the end of the month, I think it does make sense. And just having no other word from Nintendo on what their holiday looks like, I do think it makes a ton of sense for that to be like a November title that kind of anchors their holiday. But I also think that if you still want to dream big, I think that's great, because like yes, like the lows are going to be lower when it hurts so much, but like the highs are going to be so much higher. Whereas like me and everybody else who's trying to be like, well, I'm going to have zero expectations, right? Then like when something happens,
zero expectations.
Sure, then you can't be disappointed.
Yeah. So it's, and one of the things that we are about to talk about here is sort of like feeding into my like overall general theory about new releases at the end of the year here, in that I just don't think we're going to see any major games hitting release dates. And like I know the consoles are still Xbox and PlayStation are still very much like, we will be getting those new consoles out by in November sometime. I am increasingly thinking that it is not going to happen, or at least not happen in a way that people are expecting.
So what do you think of the speculation that arose last week? So, we talked about a report that a new Switch revision was coming, and actually like right after we recorded, Bloomberg landed a report as well.
Yeah.
Corroborating it, and also adding details like potentially like 4K. Like they were making it sound like it was going to be a like Switch Pro, like a much beefier machine. And then the speculation that came out of that is this idea that like, well, Nintendo's holding back games for the launch of the Switch Pro. So like Breath of the Wild 2 or something, right, is going to run like, it's going to be like a new 3DS type thing where it runs like so much better. Maybe it's an exclusive. What are your feelings on that? Because I am not really buying it.
No, I don't buy it either. It doesn't sound like Nintendo. It sounds like what people think they want Nintendo to be. I don't know why Bloomberg would be reporting on something if they didn't have like kind of a clear picture of that. I do still think that we will get some sort of Nintendo revision or Switch revision at some point next year. But I mean, I think it's not gonna do 4K graphic. Like it'll have some sort of processing power that lets it display sharper on in docked mode, and all of that. But I don't think, I mean, 4K is a pretty high bar, especially to do like the current systems don't do native 4K at this point. So
right.
I mean, it's that sounds like a wishful thinking to me.
I guess like for me, the part that I'm really skeptical on is the idea that like Nintendo decided to hold back a bunch of games.
Yeah.
Around like the launch of Switch revision. I feel like it. Look, I guess it's not impossible that when their 2020 had to change because of COVID-19, they were like, well, let's just hold back a bunch, like some games. But it just doesn't. I don't like. It's another one that just like doesn't add up to me, because I feel like look, like looking at past history and the new 3DS, like there were like a handful or maybe even just like one game that was a new 3DS exclusive, and it was Xenoblade Chronicles. And I just have a hard time
and
believing
the Binding of Isaac for some reason.
Oh, right, that's right, and the Binding of Isaac, and like SNES games
Yeah, that's
in
right.
the virtual console. But I just have a hard time believing that Nintendo is going to say like, "Hey, these games are restricted." I guess they could say like, "Hey, these games are going to run a lot better," but that also just doesn't feel like something that they would promote or care about. Like, I
Yeah,
don't feel like
it's
Nintendo really cares about they they don't they have never in the past come across to me as like trying to sell the graphical capabilities
yeah.
as like the most important thing about a console, or at least do it well.
Yeah, it's also like uh, the software library right now is so compelling as it is that there's no reason to like hold a different software library to move people to different hardware. Like they already can't keep switches in stock. So like I guess that even sort of like begs the question of like why bother having the revision at all right now? If you keep
Or
making more switches, people are going to keep buying them.
or why bother like having an amazing holiday lineup, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because why release a bunch of games that would drive hardware sales if you are already selling everything that you can make?
Yeah. Well, and also like we are in a place right now because of COVID that has made obviously development and all sorts of marketing difficult for Nintendo in ways that, and this is something that you can even kind of call back to the High Score documentary. They really underlined how Nintendo like got their products out in people's hands by physically getting out into people's hands, by having the Nintendo World Championships, by having displays at stores and stuff like that. Nintendo, for whatever else you want to say about it, has always been like an in-person company, right? Like they get in your space, they make toys and they want you to have these things in your hand to like play and experience them. And I think that so many of their games demo better than they like preview. Like it is more fun to play it
Mm-hmm.
than to watch it. um and so that has made any of their plans for 2020 difficult to execute on from a marketing perspective, also from a development perspective, just because it's hard to do anything in this environment. But then also, Animal Crossing has been such a wild success, like an astronomically huge success that no one could have predicted was going to be as big as it is, that they don't need to push themselves to deliver in an environment where it's going to be difficult to deliver things. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I think no one is ever going to be like, yeah, so we just took the L and moved it to next year. Like, but I think we're seeing a delay in those things, uh, partially because they need it, but also because they can afford it.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, we didn't get a full blown Nintendo Direct, and we haven't had one for almost like an entire year at this point.
Yep.
Um, but there was the all digital Gamescom event last week where we got a bunch of news, like video game news in general, and then some updates for a handful of games that are coming to Switch. So let's start off by talking about the Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga collection, which you and
Yes.
I saw a hands-off demo for at E3 2019. It looked cool then. This trailer for it looked super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're interested in Star Wars or Lego Star Wars at all, I thoroughly recommend checking out this trailer. They used the music cue from the last trailer for Rise of Skywalker, the last like pre-release trailer, which I remember like losing my mind over because
Mm-hmm.
it's so cool and it recontextualizes the like main fanfare of Star Wars. And just showed like a bunch of like cute scenes from like all throughout the 9 films. This game's gonna rule. Like I'm very excited for it. At the end, they did say it was going to come out spring 2021, which we never had a solid date on it before, I don't believe, but
We did have a solid
we
date.
did. Okay.
I think around, I can't remember what it was. Was it like around May the 4th? They
Hmm.
when like they talked about Taika Waititi directing a Star Wars movie, and I
Yeah.
think one of the releases was like an official release date for this game in October.
See, I
But
remember that too, and then I went looking for it and I couldn't find it. So
they Jedi mind wiped
yeah, that's
the
right.
entire internet. But yeah, I think we had a date for it, but maybe you're right. Maybe it was never officially announced. but a little bit of a bummer that it's coming out in spring 2021. But I'm looking forward to it. It's been over like 8 or 9 years that I've played any Lego game at all, and this seems like a really fun one to get into.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Lego Star Wars Force Awakens on the Wii U, and was kind of bummed that there wasn't a Last Jedi game or a Rogue One game or anything like that. And I guess this still won't have elements of Rogue One in it. But yeah, just the demo that you and I saw, like you get to pick what movie you're going to, what trilogy you're going to, and then it's sort of like an open world, open universe. You're flying to planets. Like it seems uh, both like the traditional Lego Star Wars games and unlike it, like more ambitious. So I'm super excited for this game. I can wait for spring 2021. But that's part of what feeds into my like nothing that we expected to see at the end of this year. Are we actually going to see at the end of this year?
Also, you're going to be able to play as Yaddle
I saw that.
Yaddle!
Which
is very exciting. Also, Lord of the Rings Gollum, which is a game that's coming in late 2021, which had been revealed earlier. I want to say a few months ago, but it might have been weeks. But I didn't know that this one was coming to Switch, and this was the first time that we had heard that. I think it's a narrative-based stealth game with like really focused on the storytelling with dialogue choices, including like balancing Gollum and Smeagol personalities. It's interesting, if nothing else. I don't really know what to make of it.
Yeah, I mean it seems neat. They could, of course, bungle the whole thing, and it could be awful. But like the concept of playing as Gollum in the events leading up to the Lord of the Rings, like being captured by Sauron's forces and like all of that, and escaping. Like it seems like it is fertile ground for interesting story and gameplay. Like the idea of being Gollum and like sneaking through Mordor and like having to creep around orcs and stuff. There aren't too many like pure stealth gameplay experiences. And I don't know if this is one of them. I'll be excited to play it. I like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I was gonna say like this past year I've really gotten like super into Star Wars. Like re-immersed myself in all things Star Wars, and now I'm like, will 2021 be the year of re-immersing myself into all things Lord of the Rings?
I mean, maybe it will be. Who knows? This is not connected to the Peter Jackson trilogies. They're using like a different design of
right.
Gollum. I assume that means it's also not connected to the Amazon series.
Oh my gosh,
know?
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, that's a thing. Prepare yourself, man.
I think you're probably right, only because I think that series takes place like an entire like generation, like hundreds of years or something, apart from the books.
Oh, okay, all right, but it's still called Lord of the Rings, though, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Sure. I mean, I think maybe they've announced a cast. Like, I who knows when that show is even premiering.
Yeah, I mean that's I believe I read somewhere that they had already spent or like budgeted to spend $1 billion for the production of the first season.
I think they committed to like 5 years of it up front or something like that.
It's just crazy.
Jurassic World Evolution Complete Edition is coming to Switch on November 3rd.
This is also a game that I played at E3 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Chris Bermonti and I waited in line for like an hour to play Jurassic World Evolution, which is a game that doesn't make any sense to play on a convention floor because it's like a park sim. It's a roller coaster tycoon, but with Jurassic Park. But Chris and I had a very nice time getting to know each other in that line. And this is one that I am a little bit interested in, especially because like I just had that experience a couple weeks ago of watching the Jurassic Parks 2 and 3, and just kind of being like, I like the idea of this a lot. Maybe it's a world that I want to like just sort of exist in for a while, and maybe this is the way to do it.
Also revealed was Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World, which is coming the first quarter of 2021.
Why are there so many of these like Wonder Boy, Monster Boy,
I
8-bit games
yeah,
being remade for like modern consoles? What is that? Why? Why?
it's a series that I don't know anything about. Like, isn't Wonder Boy and Monster? What's the other one? Monster
I think Monster Boy is the
Kid,
other one. Yeah, I
Monster
don't
Boy. Yeah,
know.
no, I think you're right, Monster Boy. But like, aren't they like also like part of the same series or like
Y-
branching from the same
yes, I
series?
think
Or
so.
it's like a really it's a family tree that I'm only peripherally familiar with, so I find the whole thing very confusing. I know that one of the games, two of the remakes or whatever have been
On
well
Switch. Yeah.
regarded, but like I don't know. I like it's a series I'm so unfamiliar with that like I admire the art of these some of these new games from like afar, but other than that I haven't really dove in.
I mean, it mostly just kind of makes me jealous for like the 8-bit games that I am familiar with that I would like to see remade with like new hand-drawn, animated like art style. This one isn't exactly that. They're doing like it's the characters and the backgrounds are all like 3D, but still
Mm.
like moving around in a like two-dimensional plane. So it feels a little more like Mighty Number Nine e
Mhm.
than something like truly hand drawn. But yeah, I mean, this one just kind of pointing it out as a weird curiosity. They keep remaking these games.
The Outer Worlds Peril on Gorgon DLC was shown off. There's no date for it. They said before the Switch version was. Sorry, actually, did they? I didn't see this. Did they officially confirm that it's coming to Switch with this,
Oh
or
no, I don't know.
yeah, well, so it's interesting because before the game was released on Switch, they were like, "Yes, we're planning on like supporting it with all the DLC and everything." But since this has been revealed, they haven't said anything about it having a Switch version. My assumption is that it'll happen eventually, but I wouldn't be surprised if it comes after it's released on all the other platforms.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, they didn't have any information about release of this thing.
Hmm.
It's uh, whether or not it's coming to Switch. I guess is something we'll just have to like wait and see. Does the name Gorgon mean anything to you?
No, I'm trying to think from so what's it is interesting is in the game on like the map when you're traveling between the different planets, there are like two or three planets, I think two planets that are like locked that through the story you
Oh,
never
interesting.
experience. And so I assume that those will be part of the DLC. I don't remember one of them being named Gorgon. It's a great name for whatever it is. So, a presumably
Yeah, if
planet,
it's a planet
but
or like a space station or something.
yeah, yeah. And I really enjoyed my time with that game, so I'm hoping that it'd be fun if the DLC comes as well.
Yeah, you'd go back to it for the DLC, you think?
Yeah, I
Okay.
would for sure. Little Nightmares 2 is coming out on February 11th, 2021.
And I believe Little Nightmares was a game that we saw teased in like a indie showcase at some point a long
Yeah.
time ago. So I think this is really just an announcement of a release date for it.
Doom Eternal, the DLC, The Ancient Gods Part 1. With no release date for it. We did learn that it will be playable separately from like the main game, so you'll just be able to
Oh,
buy it
interesting.
on its own, kind of like Torn of the Golden Country
Yeah.
with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. But also the game has been announced for Switch. It was delayed for Switch. It's not even released on Switch yet. The last we heard was I think in July when one of the producers on the game was saying that we should hear news pretty soon.
Soon, yeah.
Yeah,
Here we
and
are 2
so
months later.
hopefully, like I could see that being potentially an October or November title. I think the first one came out in November of 2017.
That could
I'm
also
looking forward
be
to that one.
a good entry in a Nintendo Direct. Doom
Yes,
Eternal.
absolutely.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Space Crew, which seems kind of like a cross between Overcooked and Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time.
Yeah. That feels a little bit more complimentary than uh like my impression of actually watching the trailer was.
Hmm.
It's both Overcooked and Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time are so confident in their own identity, like they have such a clear visual style, and like Overcooked is so like kind of dorky and weird that like you can't help but be like, oh yeah, that is authentically Overcooked. That's what Overcooked is. And this feels Space Crew feels a little bit like derivative. The trailer made references to both Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica. So like, yeah, I mean, I guess it's playing with the material that it has, but yeah, it could be interesting. I got an email about this from a PR company, so maybe we'll be checking this one out.
And that comes out on October 15th of this year. We got a date for Minecraft Dungeons, the Creeping Winter DLC.
This drives me crazy. We talked about this just last week. Yes.
Yeah.
In our previous episode about the Nintendo partner showcase, where they said that this was coming out in September, and then like 2 days later, Gamescom is like, it's coming out September 8th. It's like, why? Come on, guys. Let's get all these beats lined up.
And then also there's a Bridge Constructor game coming, Bridge Constructor: The Walking Dead, which will be released sometime this year. There was also a Bridge Constructor Portal, right? Wasn't that like another one that came out?
Yeah. So Bridge Constructor just out there getting compelling but weird licenses where it's like, wait, Portal, I can at least like sort of put the pieces together where like it's like a physics engineering kind of thing. So like, that they sort of make sense. But Bridge Constructor: The Walking Dead, like I just don't get it, Mark.
Yeah, in my head I'm imagining, what's that like? Is it World of Goo or something like that? Where one of those games where you have to construct, like ways to get across, like ravines and stuff, but you're doing it with like pieces of goo.
Blops. Yeah,
gooby blobs with eyes. Exactly. That's like in my head when I'm picturing like some like World War Z type thing.
Yeah. Well, so Good luck to the Bridge Constructor people, I guess. There were a handful of other announcements, but I feel like these were the ones that you and I could care and or talk about. There's a ton of Gamescom stuff out there. If you want to know more, you can just go and seek it out.
Lego designer Martin Simons was recently interviewed by Game Central, and he gave a few insights into working with Nintendo on the recent Lego NES and Lego Super Mario sets. On the sprite piece that's on like the TV in the NES set, he said, quote, "That took us a lot of time to get correct. They were very particular, and rightfully so. We tried to get it pixel perfect, just as with some of the other decorations in there. But that's something where we really needed their advice, and we had quite a few loops round on it, more than we expected. That is where their eye for detail was very obvious. They even looked at the printing and element shapes down to the millimeter, which we do not always do with a partner."
I love this. I love the idea. I know he probably wasn't in the room, but the idea of like Miyamoto coming up with his tape measure and measuring
exactly, and like his jeweler's glass.
Yep.
On collaborating with Nintendo in general, he said, quote, "I've been in quite a few licensing projects over the years at Lego, and every partner is different. But I think what we realized when we were working with Nintendo is that they could almost be Lego colleagues. It was that feeling after we got this project going that their philosophy is also only the best is good enough. If they had something that they said needed to be improved, they wouldn't let it go until we worked on it. Even though in the beginning we might not have been paying it the same amount of attention." And that's what they brought to the team, their very, very deep level of experience.
Again, I love this. I do think the sort of bravado of Lego being like, they could almost be Lego colleagues is very funny.
On future Nintendo projects, he says, quote, "Lego, quote, very specifically wanted to work on Super Mario first and to get that right, get that out, and not clutter things up with even any of the side games in the Mario universe." End quote. However, he added that there are a lot of opportunities and a ton of other good ideas they have that they could also work on.
So I guess that answers our questions: why there's no Yoshi, why there's no even Luigi. Although, I mean, come on. But yeah, is Mark, what do you? Is there something that you would want to see come out of like the Nintendo Lego relationship that isn't?
I think it'd be fun. Well, when he talks about like side games in the Mario universe, I'm immediately like, ooh, like a Mario Striker set, or even like a Dr. Mario set, or a Wario's Wood set.
Well, I mean, the Wario's Wood set probably never going to happen, but a Dr. Mario set would be awesome.
That'd be a lot of fun. And then finally, over the weekend, 8-Bit Dough announced that they will be releasing an arcade fight stick compatible with the Nintendo Switch and with Windows. Is this the first fight game or fight stick for Switch?
So I think there are some already, but I don't think that 8-Bit Dough has released one yet. They make some quality hardware, and I am interested in picking this one up. That's this thing is included in our news roundup. I think it's just because this is the kind of thing that I get excited about. But so like we said, it's compatible with both Nintendo and Windows. It is fully customizable with like all of the sort of normal things that you can change out on a fight stick. It's Bluetooth connected and can also do wireless with the wireless or wired connection with Switch. And yeah, it just seems like a solid stick. It comes out October 20th. It's going to be $90, which is surprisingly reasonable for a fight stick. Usually those things will cost you at least $120. Some go for like $180. I've seen them over $200. So it's a nice, reasonable price. And it sort of looks like the old NES Advantage, which appeals to me on a wonderful, nostalgic gut punch kind of level.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Very like NES aesthetic.
Yeah, like that kind of gray and black with like red accents. It's very nice, very clean. I do have one 8-Bit Dough controller that, since its firmware update, I have not been able to like resync with my Switch. So maybe I should hold my recommendations for 8-Bit Dough products until I figure that out. Yeah, but it seems like a cool controller. I have a fair number of fighting games on the Switch, like the Street Fighter 2, what is it, Ultra Street Fighter 2? Whatever it was, the one that came out right around launch, and has that really awful like first-person mode in it. But like at any time a fighting game comes out, my instinct is to pick it up on PlayStation because that's where I have a stick. If I can get this, a relatively affordable stick, then that may change my calculus going forward. All right, that's going to do it for the news. Let's close that out. All right, and that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts if you like the episode. You can share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share stuff. Reach out to a real person and tell them that you listen to this Nintendo thing, and maybe they would like it too. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying we're almost colleagues with Lego. And thanks for listening.
Hey, Rachel, Oscar.
Yeah, Claire?
Do you love Disney movies?
Uh-huh.
Have you seen them all?
Not all of them.
What do you guys think if we watch them all in chronological order and then talk about them?
Ooh. Oh, and what if we could talk about it with some of our favorite friends?
I love that.
Yeah, and what if we do it inside the Disney Vault?
That's the name of our podcast, Inside the Disney Vault on Campfire Media.
Yeah, check us out on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to yours.
That's Inside the Disney Vault.
Let's go!
Woo!
Campfire.